Let it Let it Let it Let it
Good evening. Howdy. How's everyone doing? Can y'all hear me? Let me check and see if my audio is plugged up. Yeah, it's plugged up. Can y'all hear me? I am well. Good. I hear you, Pastor D. Good, Corindus. Good. Pretty eyes. Love that introduction. Well, thank you, Emmanuel. Good to have you on, sir. Keisha said loud and clear. Greetings, Cheryl. While you're coming in, we're only at 55. Y'all know I don't usually jump in at 55. Good evening, Pastor Yashika. You know I don't usually come on when it's only at 55, so we need to get the numbers up while we letting it go. Let's get the numbers up. So if you haven't liked yet, you can go ahead and like and share, please. It is free to do it. Come on, we hit 60. It's going up. Sounds good and looks good. Thank you. Bernard has been messing with the lighting again, and I think he perfected it in the house. No more darkness. Sabrina said, I have been having this theme song playing in my head all day. Sabrina, you are not alone. It's been playing in my head for 6 seasons now. 6 seasons in a row. Hello, Ashley. Good evening. I have a wonderful studio audience tonight. Let me show you who's in my audience tonight. I've got a couple of them around here. This is VIP guest number 1. Say hello. This is Gia. Gia is in my studio audience today. I don't know how she got a VIP ticket, but she made it in. Say hi, Gia. That's my studio guest audience. Number 1, she made it to VIP. I think Diamond is a little insecure with her visit, so she moved her seat. But I have an interesting audience tonight. Good evening. I saw something cute up here. Who was it? There it goes. Bianca. My son sings the song now to me. These kids are too much. Diamond, I think, is feeling a little insecure with Gia's visit, so she sometimes moves out the way. Where's Diamond? Under my desk? She went all the way out. She left the room. Yeah. Diamond left the theater. Yeah, Diamond chooses not to participate in the audience tonight. Brittany says Diamond is being defensive. Yeah. She was triggered. Yeah. Pepper, Never. Pepper is related to Devin and Tetrick's dog, right? No, thank you. I've had enough experience from him for a lifetime. Come on, we got the numbers up to 76. I will tell Diamond we said hi. I sure will. That's Diana's therapy dog. When she's with me, she looks for Diamond. Best seat in the house claimed by evangelist Gwyneth Douglas on tonight. And she's got a hot cup of coffee. Devin said, long live Ralphie. I got PTSD from your dog.
Exactly. I think everybody does.
Thank you. Welcome, Annie. Coretha. Welcome, Carmen. Nanita said, hi, Misha.
Hi.
We need Pepper in that team. All right, Joycey, you take him for a weekend. Ralphie wasn't Christian, and I'll leave it at that. We used to call him something, and he wasn't Christian. He did not like Christians. He persecuted Christians. Dominique, Tasha, and Nick was in real early tonight. Maria Rodriguez and Deja and Davita. Gwyneth. Y'all was all in real early tonight. And then Diana creeped in and grabbed the second row with Coach Ebony and Prudence and Leah and Lydia Cordova. Bianca got in that second row. And Leah and Pastor D, Carmen Ortiz slid in on the aisle seat. And the show got started around 7 with with Danielle and Nicole. Bless God for everyone that's in here tonight. So good to see you. I'm just scanning the room, checking out your names. We're up to 87. Take a moment to like and share. Cheryl Johnson said, in my favorite chair, holding a soft, warm kitty. Aw. Welcome, Vicky. Hello. Swift Ties. Good evening. Tonight's not a Bible study night. I know Wednesday drops a little bit because folks around the globe in Christendom has Bible study on the normal Wednesday. We moved ours to Tuesdays a little under a year ago. So I know those 2 nights get a little funky. We're up to 87. I'm going to pull out my ebook and I'm going to flip to where we are at tonight. And I'm going to get ready to start. See how many we can knock out tonight. Because we have to deal with defense mechanisms and how it affects our identity. We have to deal with, just scrolling through here, how to let go of defense mechanisms. How does defense mechanisms affect our emotional and mental well-being? Scrolling through here. Which defense mechanisms hurt our relationships? I love when I picked that one. I was like, yeah, that's one I got to study. I put my book together in thoughts first. When I think about something, I think about all the areas of your life that it affects. And that's how I do my chapter titles. And then I go in and add the body to it. I was thinking on today, we're going to have some time this year. We're going to do a lot more work in Soul Detox. And one night, maybe have a Soul Detox and then maybe an intentional mentoring workshop in it as well. That will be open to, not just those that I mentor on a quarterly basis and help people get their books started. And I was thinking today how we could do 3 chapters. We can complete 3 chapters in a workshop. We literally can. So if you've been wanting to write a book or at least start out with a PDF, an ebook, something like that, we can get started with that. Brenda Chase, you are not late. You are right on time. Nick said he's ready for the newness tonight. We're going to talk about, let's see how we scroll down here. Yeah, I just want to read my chapter titles. I don't even remember them anymore. Coping with the unhealthy defense mechanisms. I was thinking about living defensively, but we kind of changed it around. I think the next book I'm going to get way more personal than I have been. So all of those that have an ear to the Lord, start praying for me now. We've got a chapter in there on narcissism as a defense mechanism. We going there. We got some stuff to do. I hope y'all can hang on. I just had a visual of y'all looking like you're on a roller coaster right now. I mean, that's where we're going to go. Elder Terry Scott, God bless you, man of God. Always have a word from the Lord for me. Always encouraging and blessing. And then we're going to end with how to overcome defense mechanisms through therapy. Yeah, one book a year. I'm doing that now. I'm doing one book a year, so I know y'all can do it. And I already am praying for vision for next year because I would like to have the book ready in December, early December for next year, So Detox. And I'm hoping to do next year, So Detox from Hawaii or something like that. It would be nice, though. That's what I get for watching Fantasy Island late at night. I'll be up watching Fantasy Island. Count me in. Come on, Carla. All right. So right now we're dealing with the types of defense mechanisms and connecting them in relation to how we show up in life, our behaviors. And with each defense mechanisms, we're going to go through 20 of them. With each defense mechanism, I'm asking for us to try and label at least 3 that we notice in our life, either while we're teaching, as they come up in our soul, or as we go out this 30 days as it comes up. Can anybody say that you have actually noticed some behavior differences in yourself, or maybe you are noticing more of your behaviors now? I myself can say, because my personal development is ongoing. I have a list each year, what I'm working on with my personality, including my mind, my will, my emotions, what my goals are. I wrote my goals out. And as a matter of fact, I challenge those who are kind of in one of those circles with me to give me their goals. And I haven't heard from one of them yet. So I'm going to have to make sure I schedule a dinner so I can find out their goals. Do that with your friends. Challenge them to set up their goals. Get them motivated on goals. And nope, we sure don't. But I'm going to be where that island is. Elder Terry said, I'm working on me as well in this season. This is a good prophetic word. To God be the glory. Welcome, Ubi. She's in the house. Vanessa said she's noticing herself a lot more. Yeah. This morning, one of the hardest things I think, for us to do is to be able to really say how we are feeling in the moment, which we should have learned by now is self-awareness. And I noticed this morning I was feeling a type of way, and I was able to state clearly what it was that I was feeling. And that was good. And I share that it was good because it's important for me not to just be behind the wheel, but also make sure that I'm enjoying the journey for myself as well. Y'all are helping me to learn at a faster pace and at a more intentional level of application. So let me get my hand clap for y'all, because that's a help to me. This is a double-edged sword that we're working here. As I help y'all, I'm able to help myself. And y'all are helping me while you're helping yourself. So we're up to 96. Please make sure you like and share. So let me go ahead and just read this. Suzanne M. Howard, Mental Health Life Coaching is not any of the viewers' counselor. This is not a counseling session, nor is it a life coach session. And I am not operating in the role of being your therapist to whomever is viewing. I can't see you. I don't know you. This site is for information and education only. Please contact us if you'd like more information on what it is that we do here. So welcome to Soul Detox, the 11th night, January 12th, 2023. I am your forever host, 6 years now, 6 Januaries we've been doing this, Soul Detox 2023. So as we go through these 20 defense mechanisms, recognizing them in our lives, choosing how they show up, and hopefully working towards a more adaptive coping mechanism. We have gotten through denial and the 3 stages of that, or the 3 realms that come with denial, repression and suppression. That's all in one. That's our number 2. Suppression and repression. That's all number 2. And number 3, we worked through last night, projection. And we made our way around the corner and we stopped over at Rationalization's house. And we visited there and parked there for a little bit. I just want to see here. Yeah. So we're at regression. We're doing good tonight. We're doing good this month. We're on number 5, regression. Let me put the comments back up so I can see y'all. Number 5, we're at regression. And I want to get the bubble little. That might be the best. And I'm going to turn off that little ticker if I can do so. Good. All right. Very good. We're at number 5, regression. Regression is reverting to an earlier stage of psychological development. When I was reviewing this last night, I was like, oh my God. Because the 2 that we're going to hit tonight, they go hand in hand, and you'll see what I'm saying. We hit 101, so we can go. Regression is reverting to an earlier stage of psychological development. The concept of regression is related to, we know who, right? Sigmund Freud, to the Freudian theory that personality develops through a series of stages. Personality develops through a series of stages. When a person, listen, y'all, when a person hasn't resolved the challenges of a certain stage, they can become fixated. Regression takes you back to the stage and behaviors of that fixation. Let everything that have breath praise the Lord. Come on, I think we need to praise the Lord right now. Let everyone that have breath, just go ahead and praise the Lord right now. Woo! Breathe up the nose. God gave the breath of life to humanity and we became a living soul. Release it out your mouth. When a person hasn't resolved the challenges of a certain stage in their life, they become fixated. Regression takes you back to the stage and behaviors of that fixation. Is there a stage in your life right now that comes to mind that perhaps you got stuck at? If I were to use a different word, how about that things were not resolved at that stage of your life? Was it adolescence? Any time in your childhood? Was it adolescence? Was it preteen? Was it teenage years? Young adult years? How about your more formative years? How about between 18 and 25? Maybe 25 to 35, 35 through 45. Maybe it was that divorce. Maybe it was you were not being validated when you were a child. Maybe something traumatic happened to you and you were never able to give emotion or word or feeling to it. And you were kind of like shut down, shut away. I'm seeing on the screen my entire childhood. Another person says adolescence for me. Those are my YouTubers. There's a time in our life. Good evening, Apostle Ramai. There's a time in our life where we did not develop through a stage, maybe because of an event or trauma. Maybe there was death, some sort of abandonment. You were mishandled. I don't want to go into too many of the things that we can go into. I want to keep it a little bit surface because this could definitely be triggering. Freudian theory states that personality develops over a series of stages. So we have to go through stages to have a mature developmental stage, right? We talked about that the other night when we talked about the theory that Sigmund Freud's daughter came up with about denial being the immature mind, a mind that did not develop. So oftentimes we will be stuck in regression because we had an event during some portion of our lifeline that we did not get through. You know, something like time heals all wounds, which again, you'll hear me say it often, is a complete lie. And if you have allowed time to be your healer, you are not healed. If you thought time was a healer, if that's what they told you, and you let time be your healer, you are not healed. You did not develop through one of the personality stages. So you had some unresolved challenges at a certain stage, and you are parked there. You might be in neutral, but in neutral, you can't go forward or back. The engine is still running. You're still alive, but you're parked right at that developmental stage. In your journal tonight, I want you to, of course, we're taking 20 pages and we're titling each of them with the title of each of these defense mechanisms. And then underneath each page, we're giving ourselves at least 3 slots, 1, 2, 3, where we're leaving room to find where we have any of these defense mechanisms in our life. But under that, I would like you to journal where it is in your life, where it is in your life. So for tonight, you would hit regression at the top of your 5th piece of notebook paper, and you would give yourself space to write down 3 places that you have at least found some regression in your life, and then journal at the bottom. If you all are saying childhood, and for example, one of my Facebook watchers said it was childhood and she said it was abandonment. Write about that abandonment. Even if it's a little bit, write about the abandonment. And we can get you help with that abandonment. I'm getting off. You hit a good spot. No, you're not. Somebody go grab Chantel. Don't let her go. Someone again said their entire childhood. So I want you to write down at least on the top of your page where you have regression, and then you have space to name at least 3 areas that you found regression in your life. I want you to just summarize your entire childhood, because sometimes we generalize everything and it really was one thing. And it has become, this is how you know when we are in regression, where it has become fixated. When it has become fixated in your life, everything is fixated around that event or that trauma that happened to you. So you could have a pretty good life, but you're unable to see it and enjoy it because you have become, that's our word tonight, fixated on that developmental stage of your life. Does that make sense? You could have really good children, or at least children that love you. You know, children are children, don't care what age they're at least children that love you. You could have had some decent relationships in your life. but you're unable to even see them, to appreciate them, because you have become fixated with this main event of your life story. And to you, everything else gets suffocated under this event. So to you, your whole life is just a waste. Your whole life was just bad, and you're still waiting for something good to happen. And even though good is happening, you are incapable of seeing it and viewing it and enjoying it, because you have not been healed through this one area of your life of regression that has hindered the developmental process of your personality, and you're stuck there. We have to get healed. Again, I support what I do 100%, and I am very good at what I do. But if you can't afford to pay for life coaching, at least love yourself enough to get a therapist. If you have insurance that will pay for a therapist, go. If you have a co-payment that you have to pay for your therapist, maybe your mental health coach could help you and put you on a sliding scale where this is what my co-payment would be. This is the portion I have to pay, and I'd like to see you. Or my insurance covers the therapist, and I'd like to see you as well. They work in tandem, and they work well together. But you will know, thank you, Chantel, you will know that you are fixated on something when everything in life cannot be seen as valid or authentic as it is, because this thing has consumed you. It's consumed your heart. You may not talk about it a lot. You may not even realize how much you think about it. But you can tell when you're fixated, one, because the growth and the development isn't there, and two, because you have not developed into other stages and phases of your life. So regression takes you back to the stage and behaviors of that fixation. For example, I'm glad you asked. Under a high level of stress, an adult might refuse to get out of bed and start their day. Key word there, adult. A high level of stress in your life can take an adult out. And they might refuse to get out of bed and start their day. That might have been me today. Let me see if the rest of it applies to me. Instead, they might stay at home where they feel safe and secure. They might even develop vague physical complaints without any noticeable symptoms. In childhood, these behaviors may have brought attention and comfort from a parent. To the overwhelmed adult, being at home and ill seems more acceptable than facing the anxiety of the day's problem. Congratulations, Brenda Chase. I'm reading your post and I'm replying to that last sentence. Congratulations on being clean from 8 years, struggling through a horrific, her words, a horrific childhood when the dynamics in the house was led by an alcoholic father. Congratulations to you on your triumph for 8 years, and we support you here. And Noemi, regression on childhood abandonment. My dad divorced my mom when I was 6, and I miss him and daddy's love. That's why I was looking for a man's love. Y'all doing real well. You're being vulnerable. You're standing in your truth without any shame, not worrying about judgment. That's power in that. Congratulations to you, Noemi. Brenda Chase, we're here. And we can help you to get that complete circle of community that you may need to get through it. We want to support you. We want you to continue thriving through those 8 years. Pastor D said, here we go. Deep diving begins now. Anyone need an anchor? Brenda, they're cheering you on. You've got a team here. So let me just talk about that part again. I think that was good. Let's use for an example that you're living under a high level of stress right now. Bills, maybe breakup, maybe still suffering from a fixation from the abuses of your childhood. So something else going on in your life today. This is good. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Let me do it this way. So let's just say today you're dealing with something that's very heavy in your life. As I said, maybe you got too much debt. Maybe the kids are all starting to get into their own toxic dysfunctions, relationships in life, as it would be. Maybe you're going through a rough time in your marriage, or you're going through divorce. And normally that would hit someone and they would know, well, maybe I should get a therapist, or I need to really let my circle of friends know that I need them more because I'm going through a lot more in my life right now. So I need to lean on them a little bit more, maybe than I did 6 months or a year ago, or the entirety of our relationship. I really need that support system, because this situation that I'm in currently, whatever life age you're at now, it's bringing me back to that time in my life that I did not progress through. I did not develop through. So you end up retorting to that stage in your life. So let's just say you were 6 or 13 or 18. So even though you're going through something currently, it is being triggered and offsetting what you did not have handled in your young adult or your prior lifetime. So now it's compounded. So it's all compounded together. So when someone who maybe has been healed or has not had such a traumatic experience in their childhood, they could get through the mounting debt. They can file a bankruptcy, or they can go and get the credit repair help, or they're able to establish a loan and get out of the debt. Or maybe for the divorce, they have to realize that the relationship is no longer serving a purpose to you, a marital purpose to you, and it's better for you to get out of it. And they make those changes progressively, adaptively. They make those changes. But for someone who's not healed and is stuck at a developmental stage in their life, they can't make those same choices. They're not capable of standing on their yes, making up their own mind and making the best decision for them and moving forward with the situation, because this current event has sent them back to the stage where they weren't able to develop through. That's right, Prudence. So it's compounded. So under a high level of stress, an adult can refuse to get out of bed to even start their day. Instead, they might stay at home where they feel safe and secure. Does anyone have your home set where you feel safe and secure at your home? How is your home a place of safety and security for you? Now, I'm not asking if you're in a domestic relationship or if there's some problems in your home that you don't feel physically, emotionally safe. Is your home a safe place for you? I see hands. I said, yes, very good. That is so important for us, that our homes not just be a house or a dwelling, but it be a place where you feel safe and secure. Like when you've had enough with outside, you want to run home. I've stayed in some very, very, very nice Airbnbs and hotels and loved them and was like, oh my God, I could get used to this life. But after a few days, maybe after a week, I didn't feel that home, that safe. And even though things in there were 5-star and lavish, I wanted to go back to my home because that's my safe place. My mattress may not have been as good as theirs, but I wanted my bed. That's our safe place, and our home should be our safe place. And then we can also talk a little deeper about how to make sure that your home is a safe place from domestic abuse, from toxic dysfunction that's going on in the house. Has anyone ever had a time in your life where you needed to escape home, mentally or physical reasons, that you just didn't have any peace at home and you'd rather fall asleep on a friend's couch or stay in a bar all night or, anywhere but home? Have you ever been in that place? That's a tough way to live. Yeah, I see yeses on here. So instead of moving on with life and starting their day because they are able to, because they have matured through the developmental stages of their life, they actually will stay home because that's the only place they feel safe and secure, even though the day is in bed. They might even develop vague physical complaints without any noticeable symptoms. Good evening, Kevin. I remember when one of my older sisters lost her son. He was hit by a hit and run driver. He had moved up to New Hampshire. He met a girl and moved up to New Hampshire with her. And she lost her son. And she was at our house every single day. She could not go home. Home was no longer that place of safety for her. It was lonely. I'm sure it probably had lots of reminders of her son. And she was at our house every day. And we laugh about it now because we're all saved in my family now. We laugh now, but back then, I mean, we were having drunk parties, drug parties. We had all kind of people coming and going. We had people in the house we didn't even know. And she would come by every day after work and sit in our house, and she would laugh at the craziness that we were in. And, you know, we can get real deep and say it wasn't funny, but it gave her a place, one of the most probably unsafe places my sister could have, she's much older than me, that she could have ever found herself being. She felt safer around all of us who, if I can say, were probably out of our complete minds. But she was able to laugh and not be in her home. And that was actually a safe place for her. So there's been those times in our lives. In childhood, these behaviors may have brought attention and comfort from a parent. That's what home reminded you of, attention or comfort from a parent. To the overwhelmed adult ego, being at home and ill seems more acceptable than facing the anxieties of the day's problem. There might be another one I'll star and we can talk about later on. So this is a good way to segue over here. It's a good way to segue over here. So we're dealing with we're dealing with regression, right? And regression is when we revert to an earlier stage in our psychological development. When a person hasn't resolved challenges at a certain stage in their life, they become fixated. And that regression takes you back to the stage and behaviors of that fixation. So let's talk about acting out now. Acting out. Acting out is doing something extreme to express a feeling or thought that is creating intense anxiety. Acting out is doing something extreme to express a feeling or thought that is creating intense anxiety. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and they realized that they tend to act out when they feel people are not seeing them or hearing them. And it reminds him of a time in his life where he felt invisible in the household that he grew up in. And he didn't put the connection to today, to going back to his childhood, until after the first 2 months of sessions. I was able to get a pretty good history from him. And when he started sharing some stories with me, why him and his wife got into an argument and why people are upset with him, one of his good friends is upset with him. And, you know, he just began to be in denial. I knew it was denial. Of course, he didn't know he was in denial. And as we talked a little bit more, we realized that he tends to act out because he's fighting not to be invisible to the people that he believes he loves, because that's how he felt his entire life, unheard, unnoticed. Maybe there's someone on here tonight who you were never really the smart one in the family, so they kind of like never listened. I know there's a few of y'all on here tonight that I have had group conversations with, and people kind of maybe mow you over in conversation. And I watch to see how the dynamic works out. I do it with my own leadership. And I see how one person, it's like we're all playing rope and they're trying to jump in, and we're confident and we're moving forward and we're bold, or we're just crazy, but we're jumping in, and they're still trying to get in the rope from the other side. And there's people who have struggled that way with trying to jump in life their entire life. Unheard, unseen. Maybe you weren't the smartest one. Maybe you were too light for the family. That was what I was raised in. And then you hear other people say that they were too dark to be in the family. And then my parents wanted boys and they had a girl. Or my parents wanted children to be doctors, and none of us wanted to be doctors. And we're all just kind of married and, you know, just living our happy life, but our parents aren't happy with us. So we tend to act out on the job, in church, in friendships, in group settings, because we are fighting to not be invisible again, like we have had to play that part our entire life. Anyone ever felt invisible, unseen, unheard? It's rare occasions where you've actually felt heard by the people that you're around. Is there anyone that has that experience? And what happens is when you have had that childhood experience, when we have had that childhood experience and we regress back to that developmental age, we can act out as that 8-year-old that mommy never paid attention to. We can act out as that 15-year-old when we went to tell mommy that somebody was abusing me and mommy wouldn't validate me and she wouldn't support me. I didn't feel protected and seen by mom. I had to be invisible. I had to swallow what was happening in the family. I had to stay in the house with my perpetrator. I had to stay in the house with my abusers. My parents were my abusers. My uncle was my abuser. The babysitter was my abuser. My mom had her own problems before she had me, and I just grew up in the shadow of her own problems. I have been invisible my entire life. So if it happened at 8 or 12 or 15 years of age or 18 years of age, or something traumatic happened to you at 25 years of age, I don't care if you're 60, 70, or 80 years old. When that feeling comes upon you again, that perception comes upon you again, you are triggered back to a regression of that age, and you begin to act out and have what we call childlike traumas as an adult. I call them adult temper tantrums. Instead of kicking and screaming and laying on the floor like this, we're just doing it differently. But it's acting out. See me, hear me. Don't let me disappear. Don't diminish me because I'm not educated like you, because I have a stutter, because I have to think before I release my words. Don't cast me away because it takes me longer to feel confident to jump in on a conversation. So a lot of people are fighting to not be visible. Hear me, see me. I'm a human being. I'm here. And when people have to regress back because that has been their life experience, they can literally regress back to that developmental stage and age, and then act out at that very age. So acting out is doing something extreme to express a feeling or thought that is creating intense anxiety for the individual. A person might act out as if they don't feel able to express their feelings more acceptably. In my daughter detox program, when I talk to a lot of daughters and sons, they share that they were not able to express their feelings, and they watched how their mother or father or the adults that raised them up, how they were able to get heard and what they were able to do to not be invisible. And they are patterning their self off of that now. For example, I know someone, the same guy that I'm talking about, he almost becomes very bullying like and cusses and doesn't normally cuss that much outside of that regression moment where he's acting out. And as we begin to talk, he bought into the belief, which is a true belief, that in order for his mother to be heard in the house, she would cuss people out. And he watched and learned from that when you cuss people out, they listen. When you cuss people out, you get their attention. When you cuss people out in a room, that person looked like the strongest person in the room. So he learned in his family dynamics that by cussing people out, getting louder, disrespectful, even to his own self, he learned that was the way you handle from being invisible or unheard. It's a learned behavior. So we act out with our learned behaviors. How did your parents, and this is something I ask in premarital counseling, what was the dynamics of your household? When your parents had arguments, how did they handle it? Because the male experience and his partner, his soon-to-be wife experience are going to be completely different. In some houses, they just get quiet. In some homes, they stonewall each other. In other homes, things get broken. In other homes, they cuss each other out. In other homes, they go to separate bedrooms. In other homes, they ignore the arguments and they never show their children that any conflict has had any resolution at all. We just have the conflict and we never resolve anything. And that's what we do in this house. What do you think you're going to grow up to do when it's time for you to stand in that same position? You're the fruit from their tree. So if they cussed, if they got drunk, if they went out and had affairs, if they went out and spent the money, if they disappeared for days, if they came back with children out of wedlock, if they, got drunk, something else was on my mind with a conversation that I had. I'm trying to remember what it was. But that behavior is going to repeat itself in you because we are the fruit of their tree. Somebody said they would fight all the time. So I can imagine there's two ways with you, Denise, YouTube Denise. Either you're going to fight all the time too, or you're going to show up very passive because you either learned from the fighting that's how you win, that's how you be heard, or you hate it so much that you tend to be more on the passive end of things. Yeah, I see another person on here said, my daddy would just leave and come back. And for the other partner in the relationship of someone who has learned to just leave and come back, because often we say that. I've heard it in my own therapy sessions that someone, the one who's more emotionally sound or the one who's more able to should leave the house. But for the other person, that can trigger rejection in them because my daddy always left us. My mommy always left us. So if your spouse was raised in a house where someone always left and they were sitting there witnessing these arguments, your leaving is the best thing to do. So there's no fighting. There's no popo being caught. But the message you're sending to your spouse is you're not worth staying for a resolution during this conflict. So I'm rejecting you and I'm rejecting your feelings and I'm rejecting this discussion. Not planned, not your intention, but because of their regression. This is the message that you're sending to them. Look at this. Chantel on Facebook, my dad and mom would ignore each other for days. This is what we learned. Karen on YouTube said, can you ask someone these questions, these family questions, if you are dating them? 100% do it because I will. You could even get some premarital worksheets and secretly just start asking them questions. And you know a good way to ask questions without letting people know you're asking questions? Start sharing about you. And then they'll start sharing about them. And you've asked them a question that you wanted an answer to and you got it without them knowing. Because men don't like to be questioned, right? So that's a way to ask them. You know, when I was growing up, my parents used to da-da-da-da-da. And if they don't say, yeah, well, mine would do the opposite, then you can say, how was it for you? And then you go, question number 1. I have 5 different assessments that I give to couples, and I'm able to give them an assessment report at the end. These are the areas you all are going to have to work in because her family got physical and her family only had women in it. They had no men. So they don't understand the level of respect that men need. And they would cuss a dude out like he was a child and put him in a child's place. And he was raised with a mother and a father who worked together. So he's literally more prone to working with you, and she's ready to cut you off and fight you and all the crazy drama because that's what she was raised in. And we can tell that from these assessments, and we give that report when we end. So, I told one couple just recently, if this particular issue is not resolved by the end of our sessions, I will not be the one marrying you. And they looked at me. They were like, what? I said, well, I can't tell you whom to marry or who not to marry, but I can choose not to be the one marrying you. I said, I take my vow to Christ quite seriously. And I don't think I can stand here with this level of wound that's still open and walk y'all down an aisle and bring together what we're talking about now, regressions and denials and acting out. And I said, you can get married, but I will not be the one doing it. But I will be glad to finish counseling you. Someone else said, I lived in a house of screams of fear and horror, big time rejection. I grew up wanting to see everyone happy, even if I wasn't happy. See? And that has definitely caused low self-esteem in your life. Bridget says, I would become aggressive and defensive because of the silence. You get what I'm talking about? The elephant in the room was loud in my soul. Denise on YouTube says, what about somebody who doesn't let you talk at all? Like they are always correct and you can't say anything to express your feelings. I'm pretty sure that they are acting out from a regress place in their life as well, where perhaps a couple of options. One could be that they were never heard. So they have become the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor, and they throw in the argument. They decide what argument is right, and they decide their own sentences. And a mediator would work in a situation like that, Denise. There's three options. I'm just going to give one general, one hypothetical, but you guys would definitely need a mediator, or whoever it is that you're referring to would need a mediator to hear that there is another side to the table. There's another experience than the one that they are having. Noemi says, I was defensive because I grew up very afraid of yelling and fighting. See? Yeah. Good stuff. Y'all getting it. So acting out is doing something extreme to express a feeling or thought that is creating intense anxiety. A person might act out if they don't feel able to express their feelings more acceptably. Extreme behavior relieves the intensity of the bad feeling. Did you hear that? This is going to help us learn how to cohabitate in life with each other. Their extreme behavior relieves the intensity of the bad feeling for them in the short term. So their yelling is really just to be heard. And I can't stand yelling. My father was a yeller. He was a hollerer, everything. He couldn't say good morning without a cuss word in it. So for me now, the loud voices and the yelling and the hollering, it's just awful. My father's yelling was so strong, literally it caused migraines. And what I got before the migraines, when he would start yelling or raising his voice or hollering, I would begin to see zigzags and squirrels, scribbles and little floaty objects. And I found out that that was the beginning of stress, and the stress then what they call auras, which began to create the migraine in me. And my family didn't believe in doctors. So I had literal migraines, sometimes cluster migraines, if you know anything about the neurological side of headaches. And I was never treated for them. I would be in the bed crying. They would put cold rags on my head. Talk about physical abuse. That is physical abuse, to have migraines and not be able to go to the doctor. So anytime a man lifts their voice to me, I'm almost ready to fight. It triggers a defense in me because something's getting ready to happen. When someone tone elevates for me, it's telling me to get defensive, get in that defensive posture. Craziness. Mrs. Dysfunction meet Mr. Dysfunction. Do you take each other to be your lawfully wedded wife, to be a lawfully wedded husband until death do you part? They don't know how more we come close to death than we even realize. Heal your people, Father. You all right? You're shaking over there. I think you're getting triggered. We can talk about it when we hang up. Their extreme behavior or your extreme behavior relieves the intensity of the bad feeling in the short term. As with other primitive defenses, it is ineffective as a way of managing anxiety in the long term. It's an ineffective way to manage their anxiety. But you can't tell the person while they're acting out that there is a better way to do this. They think you're not hearing them again. Anything you try to do to try to comfort them, you give them some self-soothing methods, they feel like you're not hearing them. They have bought into the belief that as long as I act crazy, people gonna hear what I'm saying. And what the worst of it is for me that I've noticed, because respect is such a big deal to me, that's one of my values, is the worst disrespect there is the disrespect to thine own self. When you're willing to embarrass yourself to be heard. And I used to take that partner and ministry embarrassment on. If my husband did something, it was as if I did it. I would take it on. If somebody in my church leadership did something, I would take it on as if I did something. And I had to learn to separate the two, that they are acting out because they are trying to blank, 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 whatever it could be. And that their issue was not my issue. But that was a hard thing to do because I value respect. So for me to see someone in Christ, in leadership, pastoring a church, married to your spouse, doing something so disrespectful to yourself, we have to understand that that disrespect belongs to them. It doesn't belong to us. And it can hurt and it can feel embarrassing. And finally, you have to stop being embarrassed for how other people that you are in relationship act. That is their embarrassment. It is not yours. And for you to be free from that condemnation, there's no other freedom and no other power to walk in. But for me, it hurts to see people who are willing to go so low to disrespect themselves more than anything by this regression personality type, that only way they can be heard or relieve their anxiety is by acting out. Yes. Yep. I don't own that behavior. That's not my behavior. I don't act like that. You would never see me act like that. I don't own that behavior. So, for example, a person who is angry and frustrated with their circumstances at home might act out by punching a hole in the wall. They might feel unable to identify their feelings and put them into words. So punching the wall provides quick, temporary relief of anxiety despite the bruised fists. So regression and acting out, they definitely go hand in hand. The more likely you are the subject of regression, of reverting to an early stage of psychological development, the more prone you are going to be to acting out. So we can address someone's behavior, right? We can call someone on the carpet about their behavior, but if we can't minister to their soul where this regression lies, they may just learn to be fake. They may learn to be hypocrites. They may learn how to fake it. They may act better for the position. They may act different during church times or work times or when the family's around. But the truth and the identity of who they are, because their regression, that psychological development stage that needs to progress on, has to be ministered to. That soul has to be ministered to. So getting someone to change a behavior isn't getting someone free. And that's what I would love for the church to understand. We're producing great church people, but not disciples. We're producing great actors and people who know how to be Christ-like during the building, but outside the building, there's a form of godliness, but there's a denial of the power thereof to change. So let's not deal so much with the fruit. The fruit is the acting out. The regression is the root. Let's learn to minister to people. The acting out is a cry for help. So going to talk to someone just about a behavior, what? Because some people know how to act well in church. But what about after church? What about in the house? How many pastors and first ladies and senators and presidents and people who you bet basketball, $1 billion paid baseball and sports enthusiasts have we put in positions of being role models, and we found out that their acting out showed out somewhere, and we want to criticize and condemn for the acting out when there's a regression problem. Adults don't act out. Adults regress. Adults only act out because they're regression. Acting out is childlike behavior. You broke my toy, I'm breaking yours. I want this toy, you can't play with it. I didn't want my toy until I saw you playing with it, and we snatch it out your hand. We throw sand in the sandbox. Children act out. Adults don't act out. So what am I saying? Because we know adults act out, right? So what I'm putting into practice and application is what we're learning tonight, that it is that immature mind, not the adult mind. It is the immature mind that is acting out. And we need to speak to God and get some training and education on how to minister to the regressed soul. That's good. I like that. So the person who is angry and frustrated with a current event or circumstance or something in their home might act out in the church, might act out in their job, might act out while being with the men, might take it out in the bar, might take it out on the children. They may take it out right there in the house. They'll punch a hole in the wall because they feel unable to use their words. It was not something they were able to do when they were a child. So because of this inability to use their words, their feelings all suppress and merge and come up at one time, and they form anger, and they punch a hole in the wall, or worse, hit someone, or worse, hurt their spouse or their children. And it becomes a quick temporary relief of their anxiety. And that's why we can get caught up in the toxic triangle of domestic abusive relationships. And he'll tell you he's sorry after. And the reason why he's able to tell you he's sorry after, not so much because it's his con. Most of the time, oh, he's fake, he's phony, he hit you once, he's going to hit you again. He's probably going to hit you again if he hit you once. There's a very good high probability to that. But please understand why. Because after he hits you, the anxiety is released and he's sorry. But when that pain and that problem comes again with a combination of drugs and alcohol, and a wife that's yelling at him or a husband that's yelling at her and berating each other because we're hurt, your behavior is rejecting me and abandoning me, and you're causing me to regress back to my childhood. And now you're drinking because you're trying to deal with the regression of a traumatic moment in your life. So now you're acting out. I'm responding to your acting out, and now you're hitting me. And then you're sorry after. And you said you would never do it again. And they probably believe that in the moment that they wouldn't do it again. But they end up doing it again because it's not the acting out. It's not the DV. It's not the domestic violence. It's the regression that has to be ministered to. Is this making sense to anyone tonight? So for me, maybe call me a sucker if you want, but I believe they're sorry after they do it, because I believe that rush of cortisol in their body is now out. So they do feel sorry and they don't ever want to do it again. Their authentic self. But when that trouble comes and they regress to that 8-year-old, you're going to get the same behavior again. I'm just reading Bridget's comment. She's a counselor as well. Bridget P. Brown. She said, yes, I was tested this week by someone who acted out on me. In the past, that would have thrown me off and deregulated me. But I've been doing my work and I learned how to self-regulate and not engage. I am breaking toxic patterns in my soul. I'm not a little girl and she will not sabotage my purpose. I'm healing her and gaining emotional intelligence. Come on. Now that's church. That's what Jesus came to do. That's how you set the captives free. Our time is up. I don't know where my clock is. Oh, there it is, 1:05. My time is up. We've got to go. We did a lot of work tonight. How are we feeling? Are we all right? I might have to have some sessions here in my house before I go to bed. But thank God we have the therapy dogs here. They're going to help me minister and get us through in this house tonight. Glory be to God. Our hearts and minds all clear. I want to pray for us again. Maybe on Friday night. Carla said she's breathing. Anya said good stuff. Pretty Eyes said fire. Special got her hands up. Woo, woo, with Diana. Real good. And Anya, Kamisha's clapping. Thank you, Elitza. Oop, I lost it, but there goes Latanya's. All right. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Please make sure even after the broadcast, you share this with someone, put it in their inbox. If you haven't had a chance to notice yet, I'm putting little clips, little snippets of it on Instagram to give people a little bit of taste of what we're doing on here. Feel free to grab those snippets from my Instagram and send that over to people. Sometimes this can be a lot to engage in, but if you give them a piece, then it could provoke the curiosity in them and prepare them to be able to sit down and get the whole teaching on mental health. I am Suzanne M. Howard. I am your mental health coach, and I'm here to get you through these 30 days. And we've got 19 left, is it? That add up right? 19 days left. I'm glad to know you. See you tomorrow. Thank you for all the cash apps. Thank you because the books are still moving through the process. I'm hoping my publisher will have it up by, I was hoping tomorrow, but it might not be tomorrow. It might not come through until the weekend, but it's all happening and we're going to get it all done before it's too late. Trust me, you're going to have the book and you'll be able to keep up with what we're doing here. Thank you, Pastor D, as well. I wish above all things that you prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. God bless you. Good night. Thank you for your time. And I will see you tomorrow night, 7 p.m.
Let it let it